Benjamin, thank you for talking with me.
Thank you for having me.
You are a Baptist minister.
Well, just minister, no Baptist.
You're an advocate. You're an actor. You're kind of a superstar and all around amazing. Tell me, who is Benjamin?
I, born and raised in Philadelphia, came from an entrepreneurial political family. My grandfather was entrepreneur, and one of my aunts, who was the eldest of 14 children. I have a very large family. My grandmother had 14 children. My great-grandmother had 11 children. So there's hundreds of us. And so I came up under their, tutelage and leadership, and just learned to use all of my gifts in any way possible. And so speaking is generally the platform, but that leads into so many other things. Speaking up for people who can't speak for themselves, speaking up and making people laugh, speaking up to spread love and spirituality, and then speaking up and repping organizations as a publicist in public relations. So the essence of who I am is a big mouth, and I do it in so many different ways.
Well, I mean, I have to say, the first time I saw footage of you was on a project I was doing for United Way. And as soon as I saw you, I mean, your charisma and the ability you have to tap into, the collective it jumps off the screen.
Yeah, I'm great at reading rooms, and then I feed off energy. So whatever energy's in the room, that's what we're giving back to each other.
First of all, I want to ask you about your shirt.
Yes.
Tell me.
So this says decolonizer, and it came from an organization that wants to put wealth back into communities where wealth was stolen from. And so, as Native Americans, as Americans who, Native Americans, this was the land of Native Americans, and everything was stripped from them. After slavery, we were supposed to receive 40 acres and a mule to give us some type of standing in society. That was all stripped. So we don't have a lot of the financial advantages as others in the country. And so, there's colonization. We're decolonizing. We're trying to get wealth back into communities and give them a good standing fight in this country.
One of the ways that I witnessed you engaging in that level of work was recently at BMe, at the annual conference.
Yeah. Tragan Shorters, myself, and Sarah Multidor co-founded BMe in 2013. Tragan was the vice president of the Knight Foundation, headquartered in Miami. They give about $300 million away a year. They're in 26 cities. And the notion was at the time that Black men were not engaged in communities. Where are all the Black men? So we sent reporters out to Detroit and Philadelphia just to talk to Black men to see what they were doing to engage in their communities. And we got 3,000 stories back of Black men talking about what they do every day to build communities. So, they're at the barbershops, they're at the sport arenas, they're at churches, they're in their communities, they're, entrepreneurs, they're politicians, and they're giving back, they're engaged in communities, but wasn't being tracked. They weren't heavily involved in Boys and Girls Club, YMCA. They were all doing their own thing. And so the Knight Foundation decided, along with Tragan, to put some money behind it. And so Tragan rolled out of Knight Foundation. Sarah and I came on board to uplift the positive stories and images of Black men around the country and build more caring and prosperous communities. Over the years, we have spread to 7 cities across the country. We have given micro grants to over 300 Black leaders around the country to, one, say thank you for what you're doing, but 2, to connect them because everyone is siloed doing their own thing and taking the weight and burden on of serving that community when there are hundreds, thousands of other people just like them doing the same type of work. So we said, how about we become the aggregators? right? We become the resources that pull people together, and they've been able to collectively raise over $300-400 million over the years for the work that they're doing. And 2 years ago, we moved into phase 2 of BMe, which was now not just supporting Black men, but also supporting Black women. And so we created a fellowship, which is active now, where leaders are trained on how to insert their voice into the realm of whatever field that they're in and learn to scale the work that they do. So many people have a voice, but they don't realize how important that voice is or how much people need to hear what they have to say. And so we bring in experts to pull whatever that voice is, whatever that expertise is out, and place you right into whatever work that you're doing so that you can become that voice of moving people to a more collective, more prosperous, caring community.
Tell me a little bit about creating an asset-based narrative.
Yep, so that is the core of the work that we do. It's in Trabian's award-winning research around asset framing. So basically that is identifying people by their inspirations, aspirations, and hopes versus their deficits. And so because we started with doing work with Black men, we use them in the premise of all of our research and presentations and trainings concerning asset framing. And so there's so many narratives out there that speak against the progress and speak against the Black community. Most of them are steeped and based in fear and falsehoods. They're just simply not true. And so we work to not identify people by their stereotype, not identify people by their failings, not identify people by the worst deed they've ever, mistake they've ever made, but instead identifying them by their inspirations, their aspirations, hope, but most of all, their contributions. At the root of it, it's not even so much a Black and white thing. It is an everybody thing, because when I speak at Black conferences and I say Black dads take care of their kids more than any other racial group, sometimes you get those faces like, what? I'm like, okay, raise your hand if you hang with a deadbeat dad. And like, people are like, not too many hands go up. I said, now give me a big resounding round of applause if you know a Black dad who loves his family, takes care of his family, and does what he needs to do by his family. The room erupts in applause. I said, we know the truth. We know the truth, but we're constantly given narratives through media, through the news, through movies, through stories that are being told that are counter to the truth. And why? Because if it bleeds, it leads. If it's a negative story, it will sell. And we are more prone to accept something that speaks to what we already believe already than to accept something that we don't believe.
Humans are so new on the journey.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
And it is the human makeup, right? Our brains want to be on easy street. And it's so funny, just even now in this quarantine and pandemic, I'm watching TV and I'm like, oh my God, those people, they're too close. Why are they touching? But it's a TV show from like 1990.
Since you bring it up, that's the reason that I'm kind of wanting to talk to people, to understand what we're seeing, what we're learning, how we're feeling, what you do for a living, how that creates the lens through which you're experiencing this pandemic. We're seeing a lot of dark underside of America. We're seeing extraordinary great feats of coming together in community and unity. But once again, we're seeing some serious disparities in numbers, and they relate to some of the things that you mentioned earlier about the ability to create and have wealth, which I think then leads to access to healthcare.
Yeah.
That has not been in place. Therefore, we're seeing people with pre-existing conditions more susceptible to this horrific virus. And unfortunately, so much of that is disproportionately in our Black communities.
Tragedy always reveals the truth. and what's swept under the rug. It has no choice to be exposed. And so it again is exposing the disparities and the inequities in our overall system. And though Black Americans are impacted the most from a health perspective, all Americans from a wealth and economic perspective are impacted.
What I'm interested too in talking about is the optimism, because I am an optimist as well, and I always want to try and see.
Well, I mean, I knew that the day we met.
I know. I mean, I loved you like boom. So, how are you going to be, taking this time that the world is all experiencing at once? And how are you processing? How are you moving forward with this world?
Well, I will admit I'm losing it. I have a ton of friends who know that I am not a homebody. So they check on me always. I do not sit at home. When I do, it's because my body has said, go home and lay down. But other than that, I'm out and about. I'm always on the plane. I love people. I love speaking. I love traveling. So this has, of course, woken up some gifts that were lying dormant. So utilizing those gifts, writing more. Taraji P. Henson, who's an actress and star of the hit show on Fox Empire, has started in her foundation, the B.L. Henson Foundation, free therapy for members of the Black community. And so you get 5 free sessions. They hook you up with a local or state therapist. So I start that on Wednesday because it's great to just talk to people. There's a lot. This is a psychological experience and attack on everybody, right? Seeing constant death on television, parents becoming instant teachers, having to cook and fend for yourself every day. I feel bad for the people who can't cook. Loss of jobs. There's a lot of loss. So you need to mentally be able to talk through this, right? Or it will get to you. People who are suicidal have already killed themselves. People who are in homes with abusive relatives are under a lot of, abuse and so, I am proud to have signed up for those free sessions. I hope to come out of this better than I went in, with grandiose ideas about what to do, because we will be faced with not only a new America, but a new world when this is done. Our travel will be different. Our convenings will be different. Our partying will be different. Dr. Anthony Fauci said he doesn't recommend shaking hands ever again in life. So, yes, this is a great change for the world. Like you talk about the Spanish flu, you always reference the Great Depression. This will be our reference point for the rest of our lives. This will shape how we see each other and how we humanly connect going forward.
I should have asked you right up front, for the people besides you and I that watch this, what the air and the vibe is like in LA versus Midwest. California tends to be more where my ideologies are aligned. So does that make the air a little more positive during this?
Generally, you can't see downtown LA. It's smog. It's the air. It's so clear and crisp. I mean, you could see the mountain so clearly, the city. I mean, it's just been amazing. The animals, the deer are like on Hollywood Hill, just roaming. It is amazing.
We have a lot to learn in this. I'm curious, if you were to write a message to the future, or a guidebook, based on some of the things that we are seeing and learning now, what would your messages or your guide say to future readers?
One, to your point, we need to take off once a year, a whole month, the whole world just stop. No flights, no cars, Just everybody shelter in place if we want to preserve the future. Just stop. 2, learn self-care and beauty tips because people are looking a mess.
What I wouldn't give for a pedicure.
Me. Do you hear me? We're all independent. We're all doing our thing, but have somebody to love and love on. During this time, it's so important to have that human connection. And so whether it's together quarantine or with someone online or over the phone, but you need love in a time where it looks like all is lost. And 2, save your coin and have more than $400 for a rainy day.
What is the inspiration? What's inspiring you right now?
Thinking about life after this is inspiring me and what that will be. Because you're faced with 2 things. You're telling yourself, don't waste all this time because you'll never get it back again. Work on all this creative stuff. Or you're telling yourself, rest and relax because you'll never get this time again. Again, being an optimist, I'm hopeful for life after this and what that will mean and what that will be, and kind of want to anticipate like what that will be and be ahead of it.
How good is it going to be to hug a friend?
Yes.
Yeah. What is essential to you? Has that changed? What are your views on what is essential in life?
The only thing that has changed, because I've always been a loving, caring, giving, compassionate, individual. So none of those things change. I am generally the connector. I'm generally the life in the room. Because I love and I enjoy people. I enjoy seeing people happy. So all those things are essential. No material things and all that. What is essential to me is putting myself in a financial position to where if I'm not able to use this body for work, speaking, acting, whatever, that there's still some rolling source of income. Rich Dad, Poor Dads is a great book to read, but it talks about money making money for you versus you making money. And all of us can do that. You do not have to be wealthy to put yourself in a position where your money is making money for you. But most people only think about it in times of like tragedy, and by then it's too late.
Right. Oh my gosh. That's a good one to hold on to. Thank you.
That is essential.
Benjamin, thank you for talking with me.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Take good care of yourself.
All right. I'll see you soon.